Welcome everyone to this week's video. Today we are on Fish Friday number 231 and we have a good one for you today. Today's fish was inspired by the recent holidays that we had, and I should also say Merry Christmas to all my viewers. Here's to another year down. It's been an incredible year and I hope you had a wonderful holiday season. Today's fish has very little to do with Christmas other than its looks, and as soon as I saw a picture, I was like, this is the fish I want to do for Christmas. Today's fish that we're going to be talking about is the maroon clownfish. Now, the maroon clownfish, or scientific name Premnus biaculeatus, again, that's Premnus biaculeatus. It is part of the family Pomacentridae, which is the family of damselfish and clownfish. A lot of people are unaware that damselfish and clownfish are actually in the same family, but they are. And clownfish are obviously pretty noticeable. A lot of people don't realize there are multiple species of clownfish. In fact, there are a lot of species of clownfish. I don't know the exact number, but there's a lot in there. But the maroon clownfish is native to the Indo-Pacific, really from western Indonesia to Taiwan. I've had some conflicting information in terms of how far south they go. Some people say they do not quite make it to the Great Barrier Reef. I've seen a lot of people say they are in the Great Barrier Reef. Based on how clownfish operate, they are most likely in the Great Barrier Reef, but I can't find any records of them going any farther south. Excuse me. Sorry about that. In terms of depth, you're usually going to find these less than 50 meters, which is 150 feet, which is actually kind of important. So I want you to remember that. Other than that, like most clownfish, they are associated with anemones. That's kind of their habitat, which means that they are found primarily around coral reefs, because that's where you're going to primarily find these anemones. Doesn't sound like the baby of Finding Nemo right there. The anemones. And of course, Mrs. Ping is back there on the couch just laughing at me because this is one of the rare opportunities I get to record with her in the room, which makes me so much more self-conscious. Now, in terms of size, this is a larger clownfish. This clownfish can grow up to 17 centimeters, which is around 6.7 inches. And that's obviously females get that big. Males are much smaller, around 6 to 7 centimeters, 2.4 to 2.8 inches. That obviously has to do with the dominance hierarchy that clownfish utilize in their ecological structures. And we've talked about a clownfish before. I think we've talked about two. Like other clownfish, they do have a dominance hierarchy, with the largest member in the group will be the breeding female, and the second largest in the group will be the breeding male. Then, if the female dies, the largest breeding male will become the breeding female, get larger, and then the next size up will become the next breeding male, and that's how they actually go. So they are one of those that will transition from male to female fairly frequently if they go to an area that doesn't have a female, or if the female passes. And that's not necessarily that uncommon. In fact, I believe all clownfish do that. I might be wrong on that, but I think all clownfish species do that. So when we talk about size, anytime you talk about the upper end of size on a clownfish, you're really talking about females. Males are usually about half the size of females. Now, despite their name, the maroon clownfish, which by the way was inspired me to thinking about Santa Claus. We've been watching all the Santa Claus stuff around here, obviously with the toddler. Despite the name maroon clownfish, only some females actually get that maroon color. They're actually quite variable in color. Well, in fact, you can see here, this one's really a bright red orange. Might be a male. This one is a little bit less. another orange. But if we go here, you can see that they are actually very dependent on where they are from. Geographically, they will exhibit colorations. You can see here it's almost got a darker yellow, goldish body bands here with that kind of real dark red, not quite maroon. Versus near Australia, they're very, very bright, but with thinner bars. This one was beautiful to me. Striking gold bars with white outlines with a real dark maroon from the Andaman Islands. Absolutely gorgeous. This one's almost black. But still has those golden bars. So as you can see, they are extremely variable in color. Look at this one. Very maroon, but almost no bars are left. And that's actually kind of common. It's a similar theme I found, is that the body bars of the females are narrow and will get smaller the older the females are, but they usually still have evidence of 3 body bars. Fins, they got very rounded dorsal, anal, and caudal fins. Remember, clownfish are usually horrendous swimmers. You don't have to if you spend your entire life in an anemone. Said that one right, didn't I? So with all this variable in color and even kind of a little bit on the body shape, how do you know you have the maroon clownfish? Well, that actually ties into the other name, which is the spiked-cheeked damselfish or spiked-cheeked clownfish, I believe. And it's actually, this fish is it's a monotypic genus, meaning it is the only species in its genus. If you look right here, this little spike is actually the diagnostic characteristic for this genus. It is the only clownfish in the world that has this characteristic, it's spike. Now this is a very small spike, but when you look right here, you can see here, these are actually really large spikes right here. Very, very large. These are a little bit noticeable. You saw on some of these, that's where I pulled the picture. Even on this one, you look at the size of the spike on this female. I mean, that spike. So if you have that spike, it doesn't matter what clownfish you have, that spike means that it is the maroon clownfish, Premnus biaculeatus, which is kind of neat whenever you have something that's extremely variable. It has a very good, easy diagnostic characteristic to help with. Now, this fish is popular in the aquarium trade, as are most clownfish. They don't do too well. Most clownfish actually live longer in the wild. The maroon clownfish lives about 6 to 10 years in the wild and only 3 to 5 years in captivity. Now you can find them for about $50, which in terms of saltwater fish is actually fairly cheap. So unfortunately, it still allows for, if one dies, people just grab another one. It's not in a prohibitive price. But a lot of that has to do with their diet. They eat a lot of plankton and algae, which is not the easiest thing in the world to, if you are a novice or even a mid-level aquarist, sometimes that's feeding live algae can be difficult for a clownfish. But for the interesting fact we're going to end the video on, a lot of people might have thought it would be about the female to male transition, and we've talked about that before, and it's not necessarily that uncommon, so I didn't want to rehash that. So I wanted to talk more about the host anemone. So the issue that I ran into, and it's not all clownfish are like this, but a lot of them are, is that a lot of clownfish species will have one anemone species that they will utilize for their life cycle. And keep in mind, a clownfish spends, I want to say 6 days, 6 days or so, not in an anemone. The rest of the time it spends its entire life. Shouldn't say that. Outside of breeding times. If it is not breeding, or it is not just freshly hatched from an egg, it is in an anemone. And this particular species of clownfish only goes after this species of anemone, which was a really neat anemone, actually. The Intimacea or Intacmea quadricolor, or the bulb tentacle sea anemone, and you can see where it gets its name. A really interesting anemone, but this is the only anemone that the maroon clownfish will actually use. But on top of that, it's not just the only one that it uses. It only utilizes solitary forms on reef slopes. So anemones will sometimes grow in sort of a colony, and then sometimes they'll have little solo colonizers way off to the side. And the maroon clownfish will not even go for the popular ones in like big cultures. It will actually only stay with the solitary individuals on the reef slope, which means that it's very limited in terms of its territory. And it's actually one of the reasons why this clownfish is considered one of the most aggressive clown species in its group. I mean, it's apparently an incredibly territorial clownfish, and all clownfish have some territoriality, but maroon apparently seem to take it to the next level. And you have to take that in account should you get this in your aquarium. I mean, they really don't like to share. And it's also, the reason for that is because this, apparently the bulb tentacle sea anemone is one of the more common sea anemones, and it's a very generalist anemone. It allows a bunch of different anemone fish, which is actually the term, by the way. Any fish that lives in associations with anemones, it will allow any anemone fish to essentially live. So it's, even though the anemone is not particular, the maroon clownfish is. And I also wanted to briefly talk about the depth and why clownfish are found so shallow. Well, the reason why clownfish are found in shallower waters is because they live with anemones. You have to remember that there's a lot of things that goes into a sea anemone. They actually have what are called zooanthellae, which are living in the anemone, providing energy to the anemone. It's a really complex structure that if you want to really take a deep dive and learn some fascinating things, learn about the anemone life structure or life cycle and how they survive and how they just exist. And it's truly bizarre. But they coexist with zooanthellae that are living in their tentacles, basically. Well, those zooanthellae actually need sunlight to photosynthesize. It's why you'll never find clownfish or really outside. Now, you'll find some anemones that are living in dark. Those are bizarro things. Almost not even anemones. But, you know, the anemone complex is so unique that I encourage you all to take some time and do some deep digging and learn a little bit more about the world. But thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it. Hope to see you again. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you do. I'd really appreciate it. Hope to see you again. Hope you had a wonderful, Merry Christmas. Thank you guys so much for your love and support. If you'd like to support the channel, please click the link down below. It is by no means expected, but very much appreciated. Regardless, take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. Merry Christmas again, and peace.